Angie from Canterbury Trails Farm. Today I'm going to show you how to make an easy big pocket apron. Aprons are useful for so many things. I use them in the kitchen constantly, and whenever I go to the garden I like to have the big pockets to put produce or whatever. If you're gathering eggs, whatever you might need to put in there, you can put your gardening tools, your phone. It's just nice to have big pockets in your apron. A lot of aprons come with little tiny pockets or no pockets at all, and that makes them pretty useless as far as I'm concerned, because you've got to have the pockets. So first of all, and I'll put these measurements down in the description, but first of all, basically you need a series of rectangles. You need one 46 inches long by 18 inches wide rectangle. That will be the base of your apron. You'll need another 46 inches long by 10 inches wide rectangle. That's going to be your big pocket, and it'll be separated into several pockets when we get done. You'll need one 20-inch long by 7-inch wide rectangle. That will be the waistband. And then you'll need two 40 inches long by 3 inches wide rectangles, and those will be the apron ties. I'm going to be using a bobbin with lavender thread in it, so some of the stitches will be easier. So I'm just going to turn it over approximately ½ inch, and zigzag up that side. I'm going to turn it over about 1/4 inch. Again. So now my hemmed edge is contained inside of this next seam. Okay, one side is hemmed. Now I'm going to go over to the other side and do the same thing. Fold it over again another 1/4 inch. You can see the hem there. So now I have both sides are hemmed. Alright. Now I want to take my pocket rectangle, hem the top of the pocket before we sew it to the apron. And we're going to do the same thing we did. We're just going to do a quick zigzag 1/4 and fold it over and do another quick zigzag. And we're just going to do one of the long lengths across. That's going to be the top of your pocket. So I'm going to fold it over 1/4 inch. Okay, and now I'm going to fold it over another 1/4 inch. This way my seam is contained. It just gives it more strength, reinforces it to keep it from unraveling. You can stop at this point if you want, because this isn't going to be visible from the outside of the apron. This is because this will be the inside of the pocket. But I just like to know that I took that extra step to make it a little bit more reinforced. Okay, so now the top of my pocket is hemmed. Alright, now going to line up my pocket fabric with my base of the apron fabric. I'm going to put the right side of the pocket fabric against the wrong side of the apron. So sort of think about you're putting this on the back of the apron. And the reason why is we're going to sew this pocket all the way around the rectangle, and then we're going to flip it right side out. So it's like sort of like if you're turning a pillowcase. Inside out is what we're doing. We're going to be turning it, and so when we flip it the right side out, you're going to have a pocket on the front of the apron, and the edges will all be inside that pocket. It'll all be finished. You won't see any of that. So let me show you. So here is the back side of my apron and the back side of my pocket. When I sew this and flip it over, you're going to have two right sides of the fabric on the front of the apron. Right now you're looking at the back side, the wrong side of the pocket fabric, and the wrong side of the apron fabric. And we're just sewing the bottom. And I'm going to be using a straight stitch. If you need to pin it, that's fine. You can just hold it together. And for reinforcement, because I don't want stuff falling out of a hole at the bottom of my pocket, I'm going to do a zigzag. Just going to go over those edges in a zigzag stitch. Okay? So now if you undo it, you'll see you have the right side of your pocket fabric and the back side of your apron fabric. Now you're going to turn that. You're going to bring the pocket fabric to the front, fold it to the front. So now you're looking at both of the right sides of your fabric. And you can see the folded edge. When you iron that, it'll be a nice crisp edge. So now what we need to do is we need to fold this edge in. This is where I'm gonna put some pins in. Give me just a minute here and I'll show you. Because we're gonna finish the pocket edge. On both ends here. If you wanted to at this point, and if I wasn't filming, I probably would, you can go iron your pocket so it's laying down nice and flat. So now you see my pinned on pocket. So here's my front of my apron and this is my pocket. So I've pinned the edges inside so it's going to be neat. I'm going to sew up the side, straight stitch. At this point I'm going to go iron this pocket so it's nice and flat, and then when we come back we're going to make the dividers on the pocket. Okay, we have ironed our pocket, and so now you can see. Sure. And I will put a better picture of this up on the video as well. I mean, upcoming here. So you can see that your pocket is now sewn to the bottom of the apron. So now we're going to fold it in half. And we're doing this so we can get our pockets the same dimensions. And then we're going to fold it in half again. So it's like in 4 parts. Now you want to mark each one of those folds with a pin. So you're going to know where to sew. 1, 2, 3 pins marking the folds. You're going to be making 1, 2, 3, 4 pockets. Big pockets. So now we have our pins. And we're just going to sew straight lines. I'm going to back stitch right at the end just for reinforcement. I'm going to sew straight up that pocket. I'm going to go a little bit over the edge and then I'm going to back stitch. And then I'm going to go forward again and I'm going to back stitch one more time just to give some reinforcement to where that pocket meets the fabric. One pocket. You can see the stitching. I'm going to do that on each of my 4 pins. At the top of the pocket, go back and forth a couple of times for more reinforcement. 4 equal size pockets. stitching there. Okay, so I have my 4 pockets. Now the waistband, which is the 20-inch long by 7-inch wide rectangle. That's what we're going to be working with next. First of all, though, you need to gather the top of your apron so that it fits inside the 20-inch rectangle. I'm going to do mine by hand because that's just how I prefer to gather things. So I'm going to use some button thread, and I'm going to double it. So I'm going to measure out 20 inches, probably about 22 inches of thread. I got my 22 inches of thread. I'm going to hand gather mine. Now, in case you need to know how to gather something, put your needle into your thread. And this is also like a running stitch. You're going to go in, out, in, out, in, out. The whole length of the way. It doesn't matter. You can do tight. You want to do it, you know, fairly tight. I would say you want to aim for 4 or 5 times on one needle if you're trying to space it. And you don't want to knot that or anything because you want it to be able to pull it and it's going to gather your fabric. Okay, I've put this down on a flat surface so we can sort of see what's happening. Well, what I've done, I have folded the edges of my apron under. So I don't have all this fabric over here because it's going to be fuller than your waistband at the bottom. At the top, we have where I've gathered it. And we have the waistband rectangle, and we have the right sides of the fabric touching. So what I'm looking at when I look on top of it is the front side of my apron and the inside out part, or the wrong side of the waistband fabric. And I'm lining it up just under the gathered edge at the top that I hand gathered. I'm just folding my wider edge here at the bottom under, just so it's just not in the way. I'm going to pin this waistband to the right under the hand or the ruffle, the gather, if you hand did yours or stitched it, whatever. And then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so I have pinned my top. Here's the top of the apron where it's been gathered. And then this is along one of the long sides of the waistband rectangle. I'm looking at the wrong side of the fabric. Up here you can see the right side of the fabric for the front of the apron. It's pinned together. I've also pinned the edges inside. So if you fold this up, you can see the waistbands taking form here. So our ties are going to come out of here, and this is going to be folded over to the back. So let's get a good look at that. You can sort of see how the apron is shaping up here. Okay, we're going to sew the top on, and we're going to make the apron strings or apron ties, and then we are going to put the ties into the waistband. For right now, we're going to go sew the top of the the bottom of the waistband to the top of the apron and work on our ties. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I want those pinned edges. I'm just going to sew a straight stitch on that. I'm going to flip my needle around, and I'm just going to sew straight across the gathers, and then I'm going to do the other edge of the waistband. So I'm just going to sort of hem everything at once. Okay, So I've sewn the top, and just again for reinforcement, I'm going to go right above my sewing line with a zigzag. Okay, now let's look at that. So you see this is the back side of the apron. You got the gather and you got the wrong side of both fabrics. On the front, you have the gather and the waistband are now joined. So we are going to make the ties, and then we're going to assemble the ties onto the waistband. The ties are relatively simple. I'm just going to fold it in half. I'm just going to sew a tube, and then I'm going to turn that tube inside out. I'm going to start like a triangle across the, fold over my, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to zigzag for reinforcement. Okay, there's one. Okay, I'm also going to take a moment to trim off the end, so now my tie does have a actual point, triangle point. Okay, now to turn these inside out, pencil or a stick or tweezers. I like to grab some tweezers, stick them in there, grab the end and pull it inside out. One of the easiest ways to turn your ties inside out is to use a dowel or a pencil, some tweezers, your finger. You just push it in there and you have to work it. For me, okay, I've got my apron ties have been turned inside out and ironed, and they are flat. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go along. You don't have to do this stitch, this step, but I like to do this step because I just think it gives it a professional, more professional look to the straps. I'm just going to top stitch about 1/8 of an inch from all the edge all the way around. We have our two ties. Okay, so we are now looking at the back side of the apron. And you see up here I haven't cut my threads. It's just sort of a mess right there because I've been trying to sew for speed there. So I've set the ties about 1 to 2 inches, depending on how long you need your ties, on top of the waistband. I'm going to fold this waistband over. I had some press under, and then we'll take another look at it here. Okay, we have it pinned. You can see the strap. Here's the waistband. I'm going to show you the other side here. So this is looking at the back side of the apron. And then let me flip this over so you can get a good idea of what we're looking at before we go sew our waistband. So we have the front side of the apron. Have the big pockets here. Okay, so we're going to go sew the waistband, and then we should be done. We're going to iron. After you sew it, you want to iron the top part, and then we'll look at the finished product. Okay, so I've ironed my top of my apron, and going to put it on. And here we have it. You have 4 big pockets to put whatever you might need in there. Tomatoes, garden produce. And that's it. It's a simple apron. If you wanted to, Angie from Canterbury Trails Farm. and I hope that this was an educational and fun project for you to do with a very simple amount of fabric, and it's good to you can use different remnants, like I use 2 different kinds, and it's a simple project for a child or a beginning seamstress as well. So thank you for tuning in, and if you like this project, please subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.